I was about to go to bed. All of a sudden, someone told me to check Instagram, and there's Dana White making the Abu Dhabi announcement. I was predicting that it was going to happen within the next day, and it's finally here. Charles Oliveira and Makhachev, the rematch is on. It is absolutely official. Khamzat Chimaev and Paulo Costa is official too, according to Dana White. Guys, don't forget, Dana White also said that Paulo Costa and Whitaker was official, and he also said that Paulo Costa and Ikram Maleskarov was official. So let's not get carried away and all of a sudden actually think that anything's going to come of it. But Khamzat Chimaev is back. I think it's very risky to have Paulo Costa be the opponent that he's going to be fighting, because Khamzat's a guy we haven't seen fight in such a long time. Are we really going to risk this matchup in the hands of Paulo Costa? I don't like it at all, but we'll get to that matchup. The first thing to discuss is the fact that Makhachev has finally convinced Charles Oliveira to step up, to grow a pair of balls, and to actually sign to fight. Now, of course, I'm just poking at Oliveira a little bit because he's been saying that he's not going to be ready for Abu Dhabi, and I'm guessing that the UFC bumped his pay grade up a little bit to convince him to show up at UFC 294. He was saying that he's injured. He'll be ready the first week of November. But again, money talks. What is going to happen in the rematch? It would be insane if Charles goes out there and KOs Makhachev in the first round. I am going to pick Makhachev. I'm going to pick Islam because he's so defensively sound on the feet. And as far as I'm concerned, Beneil Dariush was a bit of a step down in competition for Charles. He mopped the floor with him, but Makhachev's a different kind of beast. We saw the close striking exchanges he had with a guy like Alexander Volkanovski. When it comes to the grappling, I believe that things are going to be pretty nullified. They're going to be neutralized between both of them, and we're going to see some striking exchanges. Now, I will say this. Charles did show some improvements with his head movement and his ability to slip some punches on the inside against a guy like Beneil Dariush. And most importantly, his chin seems to be a little bit refreshed. A lot of people forget this, but Charles took some really big shots from Beneil Dariush early on in their fight before the grappling exchange, and he ate them, and it had no effect on him. And we've seen Charles get dropped quite a bit in the past. I think that all of this time off has paid dividends and has allowed him to, again, refresh his tough man points. And Islam Makhachev is a guy that just went to battle with Volkanovski. Now, to be fair, that fight was all the way at the beginning of this year, and Makhachev's not going to be fighting until Abu Dhabi, so I don't think the war that he had with Volkanovski is going to play an effect. But what I'm curious to see is if Makhachev levels up big time after the hard test that he had with Volk, or will that, I don't know, kind of shake his confidence a little bit, because you never know what you're going to get. I think that it could also just be the case that even if Makhachev goes out there and styles on Charles once again, it might not just be indicative of him leveling up. It might just be indicative of Volkanovski being so good that when Makhachev fights anyone else, he's going to make easy work of them. But either way, if he does get better and Charles has only gotten a little bit better, I think he's going to get him out of there again. So as much as I would like to see Charles walk him down, put his lights out in Abu Dhabi, because that would probably make for one of the biggest moments in UFC history, I think Makhachev's going to clean him up again, and I think he's going to drop Charles, ultimately get the better of him, and maybe find a submission. Because, guys, when Charles Oliveira is the nail and things aren't really going his way, and I'm not saying he's going to quit. That's not at all what I'm saying. We know he doesn't do that anymore. But I feel like he has this... you can kind of see that once things don't go his way, he starts to kind of fade. His body language starts to diminish. He starts to get frustrated and he makes bad decisions. And I think he'll make bad decisions when he doesn't have things go his way against Makhachev. And I think Makhachev will take advantage of that. But let me know who you guys think is going to win in the comments. I think it's going to be a closer fight than the first one that we saw. But either way, let's get on to the next one. Khamzat Chimaev and Paulo Costa. I can't stand this fight. I can't stand it. Not only because all of a sudden people are thinking, oh, now do you believe it? Dana White announced it. Dana White's made so many Paulo Costa announcements, and he's pulled out of every single one of those goddamn fights. So until I see Bruce Buffer chest-bumping Paulo Costa while he's calling his name in the octagon, until I see Khamzat Chimaev and Costa throwing hands on camera for the world to see in the octagon in Abu Dhabi, I'm not going to buy it for a second. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Paulo Costa turns his back as soon as the referee says go and jumps out of the octagon just to troll us all, which would be hilarious. But all jokes aside, the other reason why I hate this fight is because it's not as competitive as a Khamzat Chimaev and Jared Cannonier fight. I don't want to hear any bullshit and say, oh, Costa's a monster. Jared Cannonier's old. Fuck that. Jared Cannonier is a beast that just put a world-changing beating on Marvin Vettori that has arguably done enough to earn himself another title shot, that has beaten Sean Strickland. And Paulo Costa is a glorified heavy punching man that has never had a single KO in his UFC career, that couldn't beat mediocre Marvin Vettori and couldn't even finish an old no-chin Luke Rockhold. This is not that interesting. I get it. He's a strong guy. He might be able to stuff a takedown of Khamzat Chimaev's. But let's be honest, this guy was never all that good. He doesn't have a single win over any current UFC fighters on the roster. His whole thing is about punching hard. He's not able to KO anyone. I wanted to see Khamzat fight Cannonier because it's the same situation. If Costa survives, then could he knock Khamzat out? No, because he'll gas out anyway. If Jared Cannonier, a guy that has really good cardio, survives, the question is, can he KO a Khamzat Chimaev that's emptied the gas tank? Whereas if Khamzat tries to empty the gas tank on Costa, both of them are going to be gassed, and Costa's not going to have the ability to finish him either. So it's like you're just putting him up against one of the shittier middleweights in the rankings. And of course, he's got the name, so it's exciting because of that. And if he finishes him, it'll be a big moment, and the fight itself is going to be entertaining. But I'd rather see Khamzat Chimaev fight someone that's actually good. All right, that's basically what I'm trying to sit here and tell you guys. I want to see him have a tough matchup. All right, because if he goes out there and he beats up Paulo Costa, in my humble opinion, guys, that's no better than beating Kevin Holland. It really isn't. Now, sure, styles make fights. Paulo Costa is going to be able to stuff takedowns a little bit better. He's a better grappler than Kevin Holland, but the skill discrepancy between the middleweight division and the welterweight division is very evident. All right, and I think that Khamzat's going to go in there and take this man's neck in the first round with ease. And of course, I would have picked him to do that to Jared Cannonier, but the thing is, Cannonier has great cardio. Cannonier is more proven as a striker. He's a more experienced, better overall fighter. And I just hate to see Khamzat just continue to fight like guys that are just not the top of the echelon of the sport. You know what I mean? I want to see him fight the best, even if it's not the champion. Fight the guy that's right outside of being a champion. And in this case, it would be someone like Jared Cannonier. Costa's arguably not even a top 10 middleweight. He doesn't deserve to be a top 10 middleweight. Who the fuck has he beat? But either way, if the fight actually happens, I'll be excited. I hope it goes down. I'm not going to root for Costa to pull out just so I'm right, but come on. This guy has pulled out of so many fights. He just ruined UFC 291. Aliskerov and Imavov was just announced as well, which is another good fight, but god damn it, we were supposed to have Ikram Aliskerov fighting on UFC 291 next week. Now we don't even see that fight at all, and the card is significantly diminished, all because of Paulo Costa. Again, they better have another opponent on standby that's going to be preparing specifically for the purpose of Costa pulling out. But either way, I cannot wait for Abu Dhabi. If this Khamzat and Costa fight actually happens, it's going to be huge, especially due to the fact that he'll be on the same card as Makhachev. They fought on the same card before a couple years ago in 2021 on the Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira card, when Glover Teixeira submitted Jan. Khamzat, that was his big breakout moment against Li Jingliang, where he completely ragdolled him. Maybe not big breakout moment. His big breakout moment was against Gerald Meerschaert, but you guys understand the point. Makhachev submitted Dan Hooker on that card as well. So I guess this also means that Volkanovski is probably going to have to fight Ilia Topuria, which in that case, I like it. The sooner you take on Ilia, the better. But in Volkanovski's case, he's going to be 35. The sooner you take on Islam too, the better. And we also have some Adesanya news as well. Looks like he's going to be fighting Sean Strickland instead of Dricus du Plessis. So I'll be touching on that in my next video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like and let me know what you guys think of these matchups. Are you worried about Paulo Costa pulling out? And who are you going to be picking if Charles and Islam actually fight? Let me know. Until next time. What is up, guys? It's Lucas Tracy MMA here, and I want to let you guys know that I have something for you. And that's a real food cookbook. Because if you're walking around looking like Chris Dawkins, you got to get that weight off. I don't know if you think you're DC or something, but most people usually don't perform at their best when they're walking around with 30% body fat. So if you're trying to lean out and you still want to eat good, tasty comfort foods, well, you could check out my Real Food Cookbook, because I've made it a purpose to have good, tasty foods that you can still eat just without all the processed bullshit, without all the processed ingredients like soy and seed oils. So guys, check out the Real Food Cookbook. Use code MMA for 30% off. The link is in my description. Don't forget that discount.